Today we're going to take a look at this controller. This is the X2T by Godox. I first want to thank Godox for sending this out. They sent this to me in exchange for the review. So basically, this is their old profile. For anybody who's been shooting Godox for a while, you'll recognize the shape as that very first controller that everybody used for a long time. But the biggest upgrade instantly you'll see on the top are that you have your groups, A through E, direct access. That was probably the most uncomfortable thing that you had to deal with the old one, is the fact that you didn't have instant access. And then they came out with this style of controller, which has the channels right along the side, and everybody pretty much jumped ship from the old controller over to the new one. The downside to the new one, or the old new one, is that there's no hot shoe on it. And obviously this one has a hot shoe right here. So if you have a speed light and you want to mount everything on top of your camera to use all at once, you could not do that with the controller that is missing a hot shoe. The only thing that's missing on this controller that I can find that I'm used to using on the other controller is a TCM feature. And I did a separate video on that. I'll try to figure out a way to link that other video in. But basically what TCM is the ability for you to shoot in TTL, and then it converts everything over to manual, but it takes those settings and automatically imports them into your manual setting. Then you can tweak up or down by a part of a stop or whatever you're doing in order to refine your lighting. And I do use that. I like that setup quite a bit. But just about 2-3 weeks ago, I was shooting a wedding, and my second shooter was using the old controller, and I found myself becoming very envious of the fact that she had her speed light mounted on her camera all night long, and she could just toggle back and forth with triggering the remote lights from around the room that we had set up, or triggering the light off of her camera, or combining them. In my situation, I would take this controller off and I'd put the speed light on, and then I would be able to shoot with bounce flash or whatever I was doing. And then when I wanted to flip back, I had to change controllers. In the course of a, 8-hour event, the few minutes that you lose in switching them back and forth isn't too bad, but I kind of set up a station with my speed light and my controller over by the DJ, where I would go to switch them each time. I found myself thinking that it'd be really handy if I didn't have to do that, which is exactly what this controller lets you do. So I'll say right out, pretty much off of the bat here, I will use both of these controllers in different situations. I will use this controller exactly as I described, where I need the flash on there. If I don't need this hot shoe, if I'm not using it for anything, and keep in mind, this could also be used to hold a microphone. It could be used for a whole bunch of different things. But in my use case, that was definitely what I described is what I would do. I would use this for wedding receptions or an event that would be very similar. And then if I'm just doing a portrait shoot where I'm never using light off of the top of my camera and I'm not using a microphone or anything else, I would probably still use my old trigger, but this style. So very, very quickly, let me just kind of go through what you have on here and where you find it. So first of all, at the top you have your groups A through E, and you have your test fire button. And then on the right side, as you would, if it would face you on your control, you have, this is your power switch to turn it on and off. And actually, for the demo, I will turn it on. And then this is your autofocus assist beam. That actually turns on this infrared beam to help assist in low light. So that is very handy. And then on the left side, you have your USB port to import firmware updates, and you also have a sync cord connection so that you can use the sync cord. As it faces you, in the front you have mode, menu, and set, and then you also have a spinning dial. So the spinning dial basically is how you would dial through your power settings or a number of the other menu options as you're moving down through. So let's talk about the mode button first. So right now, let me wake it up. So the mode button, if you have nothing set and nothing selected, and you just hit mode, it pulls up your multi-flash control. I'm not going to go into a whole tutorial on that right now, but if you are interested in doing like a skateboarder and he's jumping and you're having like bam, 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 and you get a whole bunch of shots while he's in the air, or a dancer or something like that, this is the setting that you would use to do that. Again, you access that by not having any of your groups selected. When you hit the mode in a channel, or sorry, in a group, it's going to go back and forth between TTL and manual. And you obviously can just pick whichever one you want and then hit set and you're there. So I'm going to leave it in manual, and I hit set, and I am channel A manual. I'm not even sure if this light is set on channel A. It is, so our test fire will trigger that light. The next button down is menu. And with menu, you pull up, obviously, your menu, and it has a whole series. You scroll down through a ton of different things. And I'm, again, not going to go into every single one of these in great detail, but I do want to tell everyone about how to find high-speed sync. I know a lot of people used one of my other videos to find that, and I got a bunch of huge thank yous for that. So the way that you find that is the very top one is sync. And then in that sync menu, you're going to have a front curtain sync, and you're also going to have the H with a lightning bolt sign, which is the lower one. You select to the lower one and you set it, and then when you clear back out of the menu, down by your battery indicator, you'll see that you have the H with the lightning bolt, and that means that your high-speed sync is turned on. Let's see, what are a couple of other ones? Menu with a long hold. If you just hold down the menu button for 2 seconds, it turns your modeling light on and off. And that is not one that's completely intuitive to find. There are a bunch of other things. There's a Bluetooth app with this so that you can control your lighting setup and your powers and whatnot through a Bluetooth app. You turn that on and off in the second menu down. The third menu down as you spin would control the beep, whether you're going to have an audible beep on. Next one controls your zoom. This unit was defaulted at 24, and then obviously if you're zooming in at a different focal length, you can control that on there. There is a scan feature, which is the next one, which will scan for all of the lights in the room. And then you have your channel setting after that. The next thing after channel is an ID, so you can actually set a custom ID to set on your lights and on your controllers, so that even if you're on the same channel as another photographer in a venue, you are not going to trigger their lights and they are not going to trigger yours. And that's pretty handy if you're shooting in a real cluttered mess of a place. Then there's the PC sync option. After that you can control a delay. And then you have your shoot mode, the distance mode, and then you have the step setup. So you can set this so that your lights will go to 1/256th power or 1/128th power. It toggles back and forth. And then you also, in that same menu, can control whether it's moving by 1/10 of a stop, kind of like, I think ProPhoto does that, or by 1/3 of a stop, which matches up with your camera. I love working with 1/3 of the stop. Real quick rabbit hole side thing. That way you can count clicks. So if I add a full stop by moving 3 clicks on one of my dials on my camera, I can adjust a full stop by 3 clicks on the lighting, and I get very, very fast at adjusting my lighting. If I want to change my depth of field, but I want the exact same exposure, I can do click, 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 and I've done 3 full stops, and then click, 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 click. I've done 3 stops here too, and everything all stays the same. So I'm not even looking at the settings as much as I'm just moving them both the same amount. So for me, that workflow is totally awesome. The next menu item is standby. That gives you the ability to have the unit stay in standby longer or shorter, very much depending on your style. I tend to like a long standby time. Controllers don't seem to burn through batteries too badly. And I'm obsessive about keeping tons of extra batteries with me anyway. I like a longer standby so that I don't have to wake the unit up when I get ready to shoot. The next thing is the light on here, how long that will stay lit, or even if it lights or not. And then the brightness of the LCD, you can bump it up or down depending on your preferences. And then the last one is the autofocus assist has 2 different modes, one for mirrorless and one for DSLRs. So this came set default to mirrorless, and it's a Sony brand, it's set up to work with Sony. So I would assume, hopefully, that all of the Sony ones are coming out from the factory set to mirrorless, because as a general rule, that's going to be the case. For Canon and Nikon, obviously they have both versions. They have mirrorless and DSLRs. So go into that very bottom menu and make sure that it's synced up to whichever version of camera you have so that the autofocus assist works the best that it can for you. So yeah, that's basically it. Not really a 100% full tutorial on it, but hopefully I covered most of the most prominent salient features and gave you a pretty good idea of what the rundown is. And if you have any questions, if there's something that you're trying to do with it that you couldn't figure out, or you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to leave a comment. I'm usually pretty good about responding real quick on comments on YouTube. I also have a Facebook group called the Photographers Cooperative. That's actually the same name as my website, www.photographerscooperative.com. And we have a whole ton of people in there. Right now, as I'm recording the video, there's about 800 people in there that are all really friendly and really helpful for beginning photographers or people that just have experienced photographers that have something not behaving the way they want it to. A lot of groups in Facebook can tend to get, well, on the internet in general, can get really negative and they're filled with trolls. There's none of that there, so we would love to have you. I would also obviously love to have you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Any likes or shares are always greatly appreciated. It helps grow the channel and it helps bring this content to other people quickly. And yeah, so hopefully this has been a great help for you in terms of deciding whether you want to get the X2T or if you want to stick with the X Pro and decide which thing will work best for you. Thank you very much and have a great day.